Hey everybody, it's Jay, and today I wanted to talk about my Mini-14. Now specifically, I wanted to talk a little bit about why I have a Mini-14, but in order to do that, I think I'm going to have to talk about why you probably shouldn't get a Mini-14. I'm always hesitant to start a video off with negatives, because I think the tendency that a lot of people do have is to either see the title of the video and immediately come in and start posting comments, addressing an argument that may or may not even exist in the video itself. But also, if in the first few minutes they don't hear what they like to hear, they don't get that confirmation bias, then they immediately get defensive in the comments. So rest assured to those people, I am going to speak positively about this gun, but I'm going to start by speaking somewhat negatively about it. Now, I want to emphasize too, I like the Mini-14 in general. There are things about it that I don't like that I'm about to talk about, but I have bought this gun. Not only have I bought this gun, paid with my own money. No one sent it to me to review or to trash or bash in order to make other products look better. I paid for it myself, but this is also the second Mini-14 that I've purchased for myself. The very first one that I bought was bought at the height of the 2008 panic, right after the Obama administration took office, and I purchased one of those then. And at the time, AR-15s were by far more expensive than Mini-14s. I paid about $800 for my first Mini-14, which was a tactical abomination that had an ATI stock on it. They were kind of a non-standard model. It looked like they were actually specially made for some government contract in Texas. They were stainless steel with a flash hider, but then had an ATI stock, which has never been, correction, not an ATI stock, but a TAPCO stock. Which has never been in Ruger's official catalog to my knowledge. In fact, when I ended up trading that gun off, it was pretty difficult finding any information on it, and that's all I could find was that purchase record that a department in Texas had purchased those specially for. So that was the first one that I bought. Like I said, I paid about $800 for it. At the time, AR-15s were going for $1,100, $1,200. Your basic Bushmasters were $1,100, $1,200 guns. And originally, from what I understand, Mini-14s were really the cheaper alternative to an AR-15. Before AR-15s kind of became the market standard, Mini-14s were the less expensive alternative. And I do remember seeing Mini-14s on the shelf after the panic, after the 2008 panic, for around $680 new. And this is, again, is still when you're mostly seeing DPMS for around $800. As well, the magazine thing was an issue for a while. It took Ruger a while to start actually making higher capacity magazines, higher than what they were using, not to say non-standard, but 30-round magazines for them as well, due to bias against, I guess, a lot of the commercial market having those types of products from Ruger. So I ended up selling that one off because at the time I couldn't really get any furniture for it to make it what I wanted. I really didn't like the TAPCO stock. Even though at the time I knew nothing about guns, but I hated that stock. It felt like crap. It felt cheap and awful, and it looked bad, and it made the gun look bad, in my opinion. And so I ended up looking into some other EBR stocks and stuff for $500 or $600 or whatever it was, and I was a broke college student and couldn't afford it at the time. So I ended up not doing anything with it. But this dealer that I knew from various sources had an RPK, an AES 10B, the gun, and like 8 mags and a drum for sale for pretty cheap, like $800. And I reached out to him, sent him an email or gave him a call, I don't remember which, and said, hey, I've got this Mini-14, would you take it on trade? He gave me a pretty good, decent trade-in value, and then that's how I ended up getting my first AK, which was an AES 10B RPK. And that dealer happened to be Misha, and that's the first time that I met Misha as well. So he sold me my first AK and basically bought my first rifle that I ever bought for myself off of me as well. So a little bit of a diversion there. Sorry about that. But I did enjoy shooting the gun overall, but I couldn't quite make it what I wanted to make out of it. And that kind of leads me to my first point about one of the things one of the reasons why you shouldn't get a Mini-14 is they're not super modular. You're pretty limited. There are a lot of aftermarket stock options, or relatively there are, but in my opinion, the Tapco ATI tactical stocks that have been out there, those plastic stocks, all feel terrible. In fact, I bought this particular Mini-14 secondhand right before the 2016 election. If you're just picking up a theme there, it's probably good timing for this video as well. And I saved it from an ATI stock. It had an ATI, plastic ATI stock. The stock was super wobbly. It just, like the pistol grip didn't fit my hand real well. It just felt super oversized. These are all very objective complaints, by the way, and I recognize that. But I did not care for that stock at all. And I very, very quickly went and bought just a plain Jane wood. I don't know, is this, I guess it is wood. I wasn't sure if it was some kind of laminate, maybe it might be, but just a plain Jane factory, cheapo factory stock. I bought the, I believe this is a Hogue, no, Choate, sorry. This is a Choate plastic upper handguard that I painted kind of a shiny brown to give it a little bit of an M14 look to it. And left the scope rail on top and threw this pretty lightweight VX Hog scope on there. In order to make it something that was a little more palatable for me. So your stock options for Mini-14s are pretty limited unless you want to go retro, or if you want to go, I mean, there's no accounting for taste. So if you want to go plastic, tactical plastic, those stocks are available. There are also higher end, I guess. I don't have any experience with them. EBR type stocks that you can throw on there as well. But all of these things equal cost if you're wanting something different. If you're wanting something that fits you better, maybe that looks better, whatever it happens to be, any reason that you might want to change the rifle up, your options are fairly limited to other more modular rifles in the same caliber, and mainly I'm talking about the M4 or the AR-15. Another issue that goes kind of along with that too is the magazines. By and large, a lot of people say that one of the weakest points of the Mini-14 are the mags. Now, I personally have never had an issue with the Mini-14 mags, except being able to find them at times. I'm only going to speak to my experiences with this up until this point, and not what the current market conditions are, because depending on when you see this video, it will vary wildly. I have no idea today, as of 2021, what these mags are selling for. When I bought mine, I paid about $30 a piece for them, for these 30 round magazines. They're pretty thin, pretty lightweight, relatively lightweight. They have a very strange, which you can see I immediately missed because I'm an AK guy and that's what I'm used to, very strange rock and lock, which you can train into, but is nowhere near as intuitive as the AR-15 mag will. I don't find it to be even as intuitive as an AK mag will, but again, that's a personal taste thing, and that's something that can be trained out of. So your mag options are also very limited. As far as I know, I've only really seen in stock these and Pro Mag, and you know my feeling about Pro Mag. Typically, my opinion is you're best left avoiding them. So unless you want to buy factory or Pro Mag, I'm not sure if there are other manufacturers. I wouldn't be surprised if there are at this point, yeah, the mag options are considerably more limited than AR-15, which means that on the aftermarket as well, your mag options are going to be pretty limited if something should ever happen from a legislation standpoint and you're not able to get those 30 round magazines anymore. So that's another consideration. Now, purely from a shootability standpoint, I have shot this rifle at 100 yards with this 4-power scope. And the best groupings that I could get, not the best, average groupings were around a little over 2.5 inches. So hardly a tack driver. I'm not going to say that that's wildly inaccurate, but I did build an AR-15 for about $400 plus a $250 trigger, which I'm sure makes a big difference as well, shooting the same exact ammunition, which was, if I remember right, 77 grain match grade hollow points, boat tail hollow points. And I was shooting consistently MOA, or about 1 inch groups, oftentimes under 1 inch groups with that gun. And whenever you take the trigger out of the equation, which is probably unfair to do, It was a much more accurate gun than what this Mini-14 is. And I'm not saying that someone out on the internet right now doesn't have a Mini-14 that'll shoot 1 MOA groups with 55 grain Tula all day. But my experience with this particular gun is it's a little over 2.5-inch gun at best at 100 yards. And that's, again, with match ammo. That was just enough variance in accuracy to make it to where I wasn't consistently hitting a clay target at 100 yards. And that's kind of my baseline for practical accuracy, is if I can shoot Wolf or Tula steel case 55 grain and consistently hit a clay target at 100 yards, I know I'm doing pretty good. With this hasn't been the case. One of those limiting factors is the trigger, which is stiff, pretty stiff. I haven't put it on a scale. It feels about like a 5, maybe probably 6 pound trigger. And so it's not the best trigger. It's not a match trigger. I don't really have any problems with it personally. It feels fine to me, but it is hardly a match trigger. Again, trigger options are pretty limited as well in that regard. I'm not sure what it would take to do a trigger job on one of these. I haven't attempted it. Don't plan to. For me, it is what it is on the gun. This is a post 580 serial or series Mini-14, which means it has the heavier barrel. That was one issue with some of the earlier Mini-14s, which I think was pre-2003, maybe 2005. I don't remember off the top of my head. I'm not really good with dates for what it's worth. And accuracy was, even for a lot of people, from what I've heard, and again, don't have any experience shooting accuracy on those. It was kind of pie plate accuracy at 100 yards with those original barrel I think they called them 181 prefix guns. So this is one of the newer ones, but again, like I said, it is not a tack driver at all. That's fine. Not every gun has to be a tack driver, but again, we're talking here about a little bit about why you probably shouldn't get one, and inherent accuracy of the system is just not as good as what it could be on other platforms in the same caliber. Now I have added the AccuStrut here. Now the AccuStrut, I really don't know practically if that makes a difference on accuracy at all. I have heard from on the old serials that does. I threw mine on here purely for the aesthetic, because I really like the look of the M1A and M14, but I hate shooting them. They're my least favorite 308s to shoot of all of the 308s that I've shot, including bolt rifles, and I've never enjoyed shooting an M1A. But I do really like the very classic way that they look. So I did a little bit of cosplay dress up on my Mini-14 to kind of evoke that pastiche of an M1A or an M14, which of course it's decidedly not either of those things, but that's why I added the AccuStrut. It's a cosmetic thing. It's for dress up purely. Like I said, I'm not really sure. Definitely adds weight. I'm not really sure if it does anything for accuracy on the post 580 serials. So those are some of the reasons why you shouldn't get one. Mags, lack of customizability and lack of modularity. And for me, probably the biggest issue, which is just baseline platform accuracy, is just not particularly good. I definitely have 7.62 by 39 AKs that shoot much tighter groups than this, better 1-inch groups or better. Not shooting 1-inch groups, but greater than 1-inch accuracy off of this gun. So why do I have one? Well, I alluded to it earlier. I had one before and really enjoyed shooting it. There's something about the recoil impulse on these, and I think it might be because so much of the gas system is on the bottom here, that it is a gentle recoil. It's not a non-existent recoil. You definitely still realize you're shooting a gun, but it's just a lot of fun to shoot. There are very few guns to me that aren't fun to shoot. Of course, the M14 being one of them. But there is just something about shooting those that it was fun. And after I got rid of it, after I traded off for the RPK, I kind of realized over the years that that I missed it, that I missed shooting it, that it was a lot of fun for me. If you are in a band state, for some reason that will take a Mini-14, but won't take an AR-15, that might be another reason why you might want to get one. For me, I live in a state where I can buy pretty much whatever I want to. I can buy pretty much everything but brass knuckles. That's about the only thing that I legally cannot buy in the state of Arkansas is brass knuckles, which means I can't get a cool World War I trench knife. But I can buy pretty much any gun that I want, including full autos, suppressors, whatever. And so I don't have a shortage of guns that take Stanag mags, guns that can take match triggers that are quite a bit more operationally or from a platform standpoint considerably more accurate, and that can take whatever type of accessories you can get. But none of those are Mini-14s, and like I said, I enjoy shooting it even in spite of all of those drawbacks, even though realistically there are definitely guns that I would go to before I would go to the Mini-14. So quite simply, I have one because it's fun. I feel like if there is legislation that bans particular features on rifles, a Mini-14 might actually hold its value pretty well. And in fact, over the years, what I've seen is as AR-15s have come down, Mini-14s have gone up. So I paid around $650 for this gun used with an ATI stock on it. And new prices I was seeing around that time were between $800 and $900 for just a base model Mini-14. Again, I have no idea what the market is like on them now, but it felt like something that overall would hold its value pretty well, particularly if there's any legislation where these might be a more viable option for people in states that might be able to get these and might not be able to get AR-15s. So I thought that was worth grabbing and holding on to for that purpose as well. So yeah, just a fun gun to shoot. Probably won't drop much in value. People seem to really like Mini-14s and get into them for various reasons. I'm not sure why exactly, but if they're like me, I guess maybe it's just fun, maybe it's iconic, maybe it brings back memories of shooting when they were a kid or from the A-team, whatever floats your boat, I guess, because they're present and out there, so people can get them. At least they could at one time. I don't know about right now when you're watching this video. So anyway, this is Jay. Hope you liked the video. Please click like if you did. Hope I didn't offend anybody talking negatively about their baby at the outset, but what are you going to do? You're probably going to offend somebody on the internet regardless of what you say. Please subscribe to us if you haven't already, if you want to check out some more better videos, and be sure to check our Patreon page if you want to help support us, and we appreciate all the help we can get there. So we will catch you next time.